Recording in progress.
City Council meeting, Monday, February 6th. I request the City Clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Bushy.
Present.
Councilmember Hill.
Present.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Present.
Vice Mayor Yelens Gulati.
Present.
Mayor Kate.
Present. All five of us are here. Welcome, everyone, whether you're here in person or tuning in virtually. We're glad you're here. I want to thank staff for all the incredible work that they do every single day behind the scenes as on our streets and really ensuring that our city works so beautifully. We are grateful to you. So as I've mentioned over the past 2 years, gun safety is a priority for San Rafael, and which is why we continue to participate in the Marin County's Gun Safety Collaborative since its inception. This week is the 5th annual National Gun Violence Survivors Week. It's a time when we take stock of the terrible human toll of America's gun violence crisis and recommit ourselves to supporting survivors with action. This first week in February marks the approximate time that gun deaths in the United States surpass the number of gun deaths experienced by peer countries in an entire calendar year. America's gun death rate is 13 times greater than our peer countries. There's an organization called Everytown, and it's one of the organizations committed to changing these statistics by amplifying the important voices of gun violence survivors. They have a great website, and you can actually read stories from survivors. In addition, they're working towards having the gun manufacturers recognize their role in this gun violence in our society. And last year, San Rafael was one of 30 cities nationwide, and we shared our data around firearms used in crimes. Thank you to SRPD for collecting and providing that information. I'm part of the Mayors Against Illegal Guns national group, and San Rafael will continue to do what we can to reduce gun violence in our community. We're grateful to Everytown for their advocacy this week and all weeks of the year. We'd like to include a land acknowledgement as our opening. So we acknowledge that the present day city of San Rafael is traditionally home to the Coast Miwok people, many of whom today are tribal citizens of the Federated Indians of Great Rancheria. We thank the original caretakers of this land and honor their continuing involvement in stewardship practices that benefit us all. So thank you for being here. I'll turn to the city clerk and she can share how you can participate either in person or virtually this evening.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. This meeting tonight is being recorded and streamed live to YouTube, and members of the public can provide public comment by phone by calling 669-444-9171 and use the meeting ID 860-6190-5675 # and pressing *9 to raise your hand for comment, or you can watch and comment directly through Zoom using the link on the agenda and use the raise hand feature through Zoom. If you experience any technical difficulties, you can email me at city.clerk@cityofcenterfell.org. Displayed on the podium and the projector is a 2-minute timer to help you stay within the 2-minute time frame. You're invited, though not required, to introduce yourself and say what part of Centerfell you reside in, or if you're from outside of Centerfell. We do offer closed captioning for this evening's meeting on Zoom. You can select the live transcript button on Zoom to enable this feature. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the public on topics not on tonight's agenda? I'll first look in the room. Yeah, so come on down and introduce yourself if you so choose. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. My name is Damien Rubio.
Wait, hold on. It sounds like it's not on. There you go. Thanks, Damien. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Damien Oyobio, and I usually like to keep it, I have my stuff written down, but I'm going to just kind of shoot from the heart today. I just wanted to give everyone a level of gratitude and appreciation for their efforts that was involved in the Arbor Park community-led project for social justice work. The project came out of a labor of love because of the simple fact that over the couple years, especially in 2020, we had the devastating losses of George Floyd and a few other folks through to violence. And I just wanted to give, San Rafael a celebration for stepping out and, putting themselves out there to say, hey, you know what, like this is not something that we are a part of, and we want to do something about it. The project came out of the community, and it was an effort for everybody to probably give their opinions and voices on something that was very strong and dear to them. And what I really appreciated about San Rafael is that they actually took the lead in saying that, hey, you know what, like we listen to you, community, and we want to do something to show our support and solidarity. So I just wanted to, thank those folks that were involved here in the city, as city staff members that were involved, Christine, Assistant City Manager, Mayor Kate, you were also involved. I really appreciate that and your level of support. Councilmember Kurtz, you also were involved too, and the folks up here as well. I know you also provided your support too. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. Everyone that was involved was very appreciative of everything that you've done, and provided literally to say, hey, you know what, like I'm going to go ahead and say we are together as a community, and I love that that level of support. So like I said, I don't have anything written down. Usually I do, but I just wanted to kind of just share my thoughts really quickly. So thank you all.
Thank you, Damien, and thank you for your leadership on the project as well. And for folks that haven't visited, it's on Freitas and what's across the street? Las Colinas. Yep, and it's open all the time. It's an outdoor art installation, so you can go and see it anytime. Thank you.
That's right. Just really quickly, it's open for everyone to see and to enjoy and use it as a public square to strike conversation and to enjoy the beauty that's involved in it. And hopefully we'll get more artists that are involved to put more things up. But this is something that City of San Rafael can use as their linchpin to bring in everyone in the community to stand up for social justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Damien. Any others in the chamber? Not seen anyone. Is there anyone virtually that would like to comment on items not on tonight's agenda?
I do see 2 hands raised, and I'll just remind everyone if they'd like to provide public comments, they can use the raise hand feature on Zoom, or they can press *9 if they're calling in.
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm sorry because I've got to turn that up. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Thank you.
We can hear you.
Terrific. Yeah, I'd like to point out that there seems to be still no resolution regarding the beating of Mateo by the San Rafael Police Department. And I want to point out that no number of performative, quote, social justice art projects, or whatever they are, is going to make up for what's been happening in San Rafael. And that's something I've been investigating for years and bringing to you for years. And in fact, the beating of Mateo never had to happen if the city had responded responsibly to my prior complaints about abuses that were ongoing by the San Rafael Police Department. So I can't say more specifically, but I understand that there are some lawsuits coming down the pike against the city, additional lawsuits in addition to the case of Mateo. And this is all going to cost the taxpayers a lot of money. And it's because you insisted every time there was a legitimate and valid complaint about the police, you insisted on defending your corrupt police officers, and the whole issue of your city attorney bragging that that police officers can turn on and off their body cam at their own, quote, discretion is totally unacceptable. I'd also like to point out that the fact that you're buying military equipment or acquiring military equipment for San Rafael Police at the same time
We're ready for your comments.
Thank you. My name is Amy Lykover. I'm speaking tonight for the San Rafael Tree Group, a coalition of local environmental leaders who have been working with the Department of Public Works for the past 2 years to improve the city's street tree ordinance and implement other urban forestry programs in General Plan 2040. We notice that the budget goals and objectives for fiscal year 2022-2023, which were presented to the City Council at your meeting June 21st, 2022, state that the street tree ordinance was to be brought for City Council consideration in summer of 2022. At that point, the draft of the revised street tree ordinance prepared and approved by DPW staff with extensive review and support from our tree group was submitted to the city attorney for routine legal review. We are now engaged with DPW in helping to address the few issues that were raised by that review. Our question tonight for you and for the staff is, what is the current timeline for council consideration of the revised street tree ordinance? Our group looks forward to completion of this important budget objective prior to the process of setting fresh objectives for fiscal year 2023-2024. The tree group stands ready to assist. Thank you. And I'm in Gerstle Park.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes,
Let us finish with the hybrid and then you can come on down. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
yes. Good evening. This is Barry Toronto. I have not done public comment in a long time for the city council, but I'm very much concerned, like the first speaker said, about the issue of all the misbehavior of some of the police officers. I don't paint them all with the broad brush because I applaud the officers for catching the catalytic converter thieves and doing what they need to do with them. But you don't need to treat everybody as a catalytic converter thief. And very much concerned that our taxpayer money is going to go to pay for some of the behavior of the rogue officers. In fact, that postal worker should be getting all the money that he asked for how he was stopped and profiled without any really cause for doing that. They got the wrong description, and they should not have handled the situation the way they did. I'm very much disturbed from that video. I know it happened a while ago, but this behavior is continuing by your police officers, and I wish it would stop. On the other hand, I applaud Councilmember Kurtz for getting involved with anti-Semitic behavior that's gone on in our community in the recent past, and I appreciate her continued work in that. And good luck tonight, and thank you very much for hearing me out.
I see no further public comment.
Thank you. And before I close the public comment, I know we have someone in the chamber. So come on down, sir. And if you'd like, you can say your name and what part of Somerville in which you live.
My name is Richard Olive. I live in Terra Linda. And I'm also here to speak on some of the recent police activity. There were two incidents that I'm focusing on. First, a policeman who drove a homeless, mentally unstable man from Northgate and left him in a residential neighborhood in San Francisco. Police there later responded to a disturbance by the man, called for EMT support, and the man was taken to a hospital. In the second incident, police officer Daisy Mazariegos approached three men sitting on a curb in the canal who were having a few beers after a day's work. Mazariegos was hostile and threatening for no apparent reason to Julio Jimenez Lopez and was soon joined by another cop, Brandon Nail. They asked Mr. Lopez for his identification. When he stood to retrieve it from his back pocket, they ordered him to sit down. He did. Again, they demanded his ID. When Mr. Lopez rose again to get it, Brandon Nail punched him in the face, threw him to the ground, and pushed his face into the gravel surface. Lopez's face was bloodied, his nose was broken, and he suffered a concussion. It's been 6 months. What has the city done about these incidents? Police Chief Skinner and City Attorney Epstein said the officer's supervisor authorized dropping the homeless man in San Francisco, which they said violated PD policy. Regarding the Lopez assault, Chief Spiller reportedly has hosted 4 hybrid meetings, which the IJ says were for collecting residents' views on how better to police the city. This doesn't require hybrid meetings. We expect the police to ensure domestic tranquility with equal justice, dignity, and respect for all, whether we are white or people of color, whether we live in Terra Linda, in the canal, Peacock Gap, or under the freeway.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And as you may know, if you've attended council meetings, we cannot comment on public comment, but I will say there is a web page specifically getting at some of the issues that were mentioned. You can go to the city website, cityofsanrafael.org, and put in policing in San Rafael, and it will come up. And there's some information there I think that might be helpful. So with that, I will close the public comment and bring it back for city manager and council member reports. And I will start with the city manager.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Kate. I do have a couple announcements tonight. The first one, Mayor Kate asked me to mention a couple city council meetings that took place last week. So I'm going to do that briefly. The council got together early last week on a study session on interim housing. And so another way of saying that is small, like tiny homes or homes for people experiencing homelessness that have a door and four walls and a roof. And the council had their first meeting on that topic as a group and was, I think, supportive of the concept in general of interim housing and had a number of great follow-up questions. A lot of things came out of the discussion from the council and from the community that staff is now following up on. So our role is to start providing answers to those questions, work with our partners, our social service providers. The chamber volunteered to assist with looking at site criteria. And there were a number of different things for follow-up that we mentioned that we would do at that meeting and then come back at a later date to the council. Also, the council got together for a city council retreat last week, which typically happens a couple times a year and focuses on teamwork, team building, communications, being as an effective council as possible. And this particular one had a focus on being within districts, because that's something that, even though it's been a few years, it's still something that's relatively new in the overall history of the city of San Rafael. So council members representing districts and working together across districts is something that was a focus of that discussion as well. I also wanted to bring up at the last city council meeting, I went through a list of over $12 million worth of new transportation funding that we got on a number of different projects that were City of San Rafael proposals that were then recommended by the Transportation Authority, Marin, TAM, for the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, MTC, to approve. And those included some priority development area planning efforts, both in Northgate and the Canal neighborhood, and also a 2nd and 4th Street improvement. And there was also a regional program that was a number of transportation improvements in the Canal neighborhood, like pedestrian transit, lighting, bike accessibility improvements, and a feasibility study for bridging the canal, which is something that's been in our plans for a long time. So I brought that up at the last city council meeting, but what happened since that time is that the California Supreme Court dismissed the challenge against Regional Measure 3, which was voted on in June 2018 and authorized incremental increases to bridge tolls. And the measure was expected to generate over $4 billion over 25 years for major transportation projects. There were dollar toll increases implemented on January 1st, 2019 and 2022. So those went in place. They have been charged, and then they've been being held in escrow until such time that the legal aspect of Regional Measure 3 or RM3 was resolved. So on January 25th of this year, the California Supreme Court dismissed the challenges to RM3, and it's been remanded to the appellate court. And the transportation agencies that we've been in contact with in Marin have been optimistic that the funds that are currently in escrow will be released and will flow to the transportation projects that was on the RM3 list. I was going to just mention a couple that were in San Rafael, but they kind of all relate to San Rafael as a community, as you kind of commuters and our residents using these areas. So just briefly, there was $120 million for the Marin, closing the Marin Sonoma Narrows. The US 101 to I-580 multimodal local access improvement connector that the council's talked about a couple times here is still in a very early stage. There was $135 million set aside for that through RM3. And State Route 37 improvements, $100 million. The downtown Bettini Transit Center, the new permanent transit center, had $30 million allocated through RM3. There was funds, $40 million for the Smart Windsor and Healdsburg extension. And then there were some competitive programs for transit access and safe routes to transit. So some of them more directly than others affecting San Rafael, the one specifically in San Rafael, the 101-580 and the downtown Bettini Transit Center. It doesn't create all of the funding for each of those projects to happen, but a big source of funding, and each of those efforts are seeking other funds as well to meet the full amount. I did speak with Ann Richmond at Transportation Authority in Marin, and she said that there's some additional process and procedural orders to come from the appellate court. And we expect to have more information in the coming weeks, but we think it looks very positive that those projects that have been in the planning stages and are going through environmental review, in the case of the permanent transit center anyway, has that funding that has been long awaited. Looks like it will now be associated with those projects. So all of that to say that between the MTC and the state funding and then the RM3, there's a lot of really positive things happening when it comes to transportation and transit. Many millions of dollars coming to San Rafael on projects that have been out there for a while and community priorities. So it's really positive, and we're happy to see this coming to fruition now. That's my report. I'll turn that back to you, Mayor Kate. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll turn to the council members for their report. I'll start with the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. So yeah, in addition to the City Council retreat and the special meeting around housing, we had the meeting on January 19th for the CCAP, which is the Climate Change Action Plan. And there was an update around sea level rise and adaptation, about the biomass update, the SB 1383 implementation, which is basically the one that, the new one that requires the mandatory organic waste recycling. We also had an update from MC. As you know, I represent the council on MC. I just had the impact report from 2022. So if anybody would like to take a look, or if you would like to request one, they are doing amazing work. There was also some city updates around building electrification and the next steps for 2023 and the EV strategy. Also participated with Mayor Kate in the Sea Level Rise Subcommittee for the Canal Resiliency Collaboration. Participated in a meeting around the 400 Canal with the landlords, and also keep supporting the community. Participated as well with Mayor Kate on the Bay Wave Executive Steering Committee. So a lot about sea level rise, which is great because it's definitely here. And on January 28th, I was representing Mayor Kate and the council in the dedication of the B Street station. And it was really illuminating to learn about all the infrastructure that was in Marin County in the early 1900s. They were connecting the entire county with the railroad. So that was really nice to meet a lot of the people that actually made this possible. And I think that's it for me. Yes.
Thank you. I know there's a lot of reports because I think it's been 3 weeks since we last met. Councilmember Bushy.
Thank you. I attended a meeting of the Point San Pedro Road Coalition Loch Lomond Development Oversight Committee on the 23rd of last month. I'm happy to report that the path and the playground improvements are nearly done. So they'll be open very soon. Perhaps they are now. I'm looking at April. No, soon they will. Soon they will be done. In less productive news, the additional housing construction out there has been paused due to market conditions, as has the commercial development out there. So both of those components remain on pause at the Loch Lomond development. Also, last week with the mayor, I attended the annual, the first annual retreat of the San Rafael Sanitation District Board. We met on Friday. We discussed many strategic objectives and plans for the agency in the coming years. Finally, today I attended the meeting of the Marin Transit Board representing the MCC Marin County Council of Mayors and Council Members. Got it. Got it. Two interesting developments there. We had a update from Golden Gate Transit District on the transit center relocation, reinvigorated now with the regional measure 3, $30 million. They are beginning the process of putting together their 30%, what they call 30% engineering plan. They have a community advisory board that they are, I believe, assembling. They haven't assembled it yet, And if the city is not feeling that they have enough say in that advisory report, let me know, and I'll be happy to reach out to my counterparts to incorporate our views more, because as that, that 30% level of detail, we want to be there when they make all those little decisions that put a whole lot of foundation underneath the rest of the plans. Also big news out of Marin Transit, they'll be making some service changes to get to the high level, what matters for our San Rafael residents. Marin Transit Route 35, which is Marin Transit's most used route. It comes out of the canal and goes through the transit center and now goes up to Novato. The good news on that route is that there will be additional service to Terra Linda High School. The change is that in order to go on to Novato, the passenger will need to switch buses at the transit center. So you get off the 35 and get on the 71. They're being synced up, so there should be no ultimate service levels change, but it will require that there be a transfer. And and Route 22, which goes down 4th Street, there will be, in order to synchronize and make more efficient, they will be consolidating Route 22 and 22X, which is an express. So there'll be more stops to see more of San Rafael as you proceed down with the Route 22. And finally, for the sharp-eyed people out there, Marin Transit has adopted a new logo, and you'll be seeing it on the buses. They'll be gradually rolled out over the next year.
Thank you. Councilmember Kurtz. Are you on? There you
I'm
go.
on.
There you
Okay. Let's see. First, I'm trying to figure out if I should do this in chronological order or not.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd like to thank Chief Speller for the event that Councilmember Bushy, Councilmember Hill, and myself attended for the award recognition for the officers. I guess it was the first one in 2 years. And so it was nice to have everyone in the room to be able to recognize promotions and accommodations. So thank you for making that happen. It was a really great event. Attended the Northgate open house that was brought by Marilyn Geyer. Councilmember Bushy was also there. Encourage the public. There's boards up and to be able to see and submit comments to them or to us as that process is just starting as we're going along. It's important to get that community feedback. Attended the Kaiser Permanente briefing based on their annual surveys that they've done and that they're opening up funding, quite a bit of funding opportunities now for nonprofits and for government agencies for many different initiatives. So that's out in the wings. And I'd also like to make sure to extend the invite to everyone on the council and many others for Age-Friendly San Rafael celebration that is scheduled for February 19th at 3 o'clock to 4:30. Might have to sneak you in through the back door because we are now running a wait list. We have over 120 people who have RSVP'd. And I'd like to thank the members for Director Kova and many of the staff who are helping to make this event happen. It will be at the community center at B Street. I think it will be a lot of fun. The committee's done a lot of work pulling this together, and I think it'll be a great event, and a lot of people in the community are excited by it. You have to be 85 or older or better, as they say. So, and that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Hill.
Thank you. I won't repeat the ones that were already mentioned. I will then just say that I met with the BID on January 19th to talk about their current initiatives. There wasn't much to report there. We're urging to get downtown as vitalized as we can. We are awaiting the strategic plan coming from the Cosmont group that we've been engaged with. Eager to see our first draft. And then last night had the privilege to attend the Lunar New Year celebration at the San Rafael Community Center. I got to see Councilmember Kurtz. I don't know if anyone else was able to attend. I had to leave early due to another engagement, but it was just so wonderful to be able to have the community come out. I can report that it was sold out, every seat taken. So it was just great to be around so many folks to celebrate the Year of the Rabbit. And that is my report.
Thank you. I just have a few to add on. I was going to go more in depth on TAM, the Transportation Authority Marin, but the city manager actually spoke to most of that at our most recent meeting. We approved Measure B, of which about $750,000 of that goes for our local roads. So it's a very important measure. And then I was going to go through the dollars for San Rafael, but just know it rolls up to about 12 million bucks. So San Rafael continues to compete really well in the region for those transit projects. In addition, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, San Rafael participates in the Gun Safety Collaborative. This is put on by the Marin County DA's office. I'm present there as well as Chief Spiller. We had our first meeting of the year. We reviewed 2023 and our action plan and how we're going to continue to work with the community to reduce gun violence in our community. In addition to the sea level rise that the Vice Mayor Yoranz Gulati already listed, there is also a Bay Adapt Local Electeds Regional Task Force, and it basically looks at sea level rise throughout the whole Bay Area. And I'm honored to be one of 2 locally elected officials selected by the Marin County Board of Supervisors to participate on that task force, really looking at how do we implement the roadmap, and it's called the Bay Adapt Platform, and how do we implement that region-wide to address sea level rise. So stay tuned. That commitment's about 18 months, and we just had our meet and greet meeting. Let me see. The last one is SMART, Sonoma Marin Area Rapid Transit. In addition to the regional Measure 3 funds, RM3, SMART has also received some funds from that have been released. And I won't go through all the different pots of money. As you're starting to hear with transit, there's actually most projects are funded from a lot of different sources. SMART has received, and this is broad strokes, over 110 million bucks for both rail and pathway projects coming down. In addition, we always get ridership updates. The weekday ridership for January was 66% of pre-COVID. And the general manager said that rain affects ridership. And he had a whole correlation, not to be careful about the causal correlation, but between rain and ridership. And it really, with all the rain that we took in January, it did affect our ridership. And finally, SMART is participating in something called February, so think of BREW in the middle, and it's a craft bar event up in Santa Rosa. So maybe we do something like that here in San Rafael, but SMART is providing, rides for people that are going between the different craft breweries. And then finally, the last thing is youth will ride for free this summer on SMART between June and August. So it's a way to both promote ridership in the off times from school. So thank you. Thank you to my colleagues. I always like to have these council member and city manager reports up front because often people think this is the yes, we have the work on the dais, but there's so much that goes on outside of this evening's meeting. So thank you to all. And I will accept public comment on the city manager and council member reports. So if anyone in the chambers would like to comment on the reports, now is your chance. Not seeing anyone. Is there anyone virtually who'd like to comment on the reports?
I do see one hand, but as a reminder, you can use the raise hand feature or press *9 if you're calling in.
I'd like to comment on Kurtz's comments about the awards given to San Rafael Police. I think it's very disturbing that you're giving any awards when we still have no resolution about serial dysfunction and abuses within the San Rafael Police Department. I'd also like to clear up a misperception that was put forward in the public comment. The issue is not that there are just a few rogue officers in the San Rafael Police Department. The issue is the entire department has been corrupted. When they say a few bad apples, what they mean is those bad apples ruin the rest of the barrel. And that's the situation you have with the San Rafael Police Department under Chief Spiller and, given full reign by the city council. So, just to keep in mind, the body cam that you saw of Mateo's beating, quote Mateo, is particularly alarming because it's body cam that we actually retrieved. My video shows that your officers were not only routinely turning on and off their body cam, but your city attorney put in writing to me that this was perfectly permissible, and they are free to do it at their own discretion. Your city attorney claimed that this was in compliance with Lexipol policy. It is not. I mean, it's really like dealing with your city is a little bit like going through the looking glass. I mean, it really, it's science fiction sometimes. But I would ask whether that investigation of the beating of Mateo is going to include the correspondence that you sent to me. And if it's not already including that, you need to forward it to the investigator.
I see no further comments. I'll give everyone a moment. I see no further public comment.
Thank you. I'll close the public comment and come back to the consent agenda. Are there any items that my colleagues would like to hold from the consent calendar? Okay. No, I'm not seeing any. I will open public comment. So this is on the consent agenda, items 4A through 4E. Anyone like to comment on the consent agenda? Not seeing anyone in the chambers. Is anyone virtually who'd like to comment on the items 4A through 4E?
I see no hands raised, and I'll give everyone a moment. I see no hands.
Thank you. I will close the public comment, and we have, close the public comment, and I would entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
A second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushy.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Yerens Glady.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 5-0. So our next agenda item is a special presentation, and it is on the presentation supporting Black History Month. And as is our custom, we will start with public comment before I read the proclamation. Is there any comments on Black History Month from people in the chambers? Not seeing anyone. Is there anyone virtually who'd like to comment prior to me reading the proclamation?
I see one hand raised, and I'll remind everyone you can use the raise hand feature or press *9.
I'm just gritting my teeth, getting ready for Kate Cullen to talk about Black history. I want to talk a little bit about some recent Black history. You had an internment camp, an abusive and deadly internment camp being run by San Rafael police under a freeway that had a majority Black and Latino unhoused population in it. A lot of them were medically vulnerable. One of them was a U.S. Marine Corps veteran who was so sickened by the camp that he ended up in an ICU. I had to track him down there because you wouldn't tell me what had become of him. And then I got a letter from your city attorney saying that you were taking good care of him. I should stop worrying. And I found him in a fetal position in a tent on the ground outside Ritter Center in mid-December. This is how you had taken care of him. Don't give me your proclamation about Black history. We need to talk about what you're doing to Black people in the present. And I will point out that, your police unjustly arrested one of the Black internees, stuck him in the Marin County Jail, the no natural light Marin County Jail that has worse conditions than San Quentin, and he was abysmally treated. He was merely trying to defend himself because the $32,000 you spent on security there did not keep out people who attacked this poor person. And if you want some Black history, this person, when he was 19, back in 1989, was shot in the leg by Sausalito police because he was alleged to have stolen a 50-cent Nestle Crunch bar. That was after Sausalito police sicked a dog on him. Don't tell me about rogue officers. Police departments throughout the county are deeply.
I see no other hands raised, and I'll give everyone a moment. I see no further public comment.
Thank you. I will close the public comment, and we have our proclamation of the City Council proclaiming this month-long celebration of Black History Month in February. And if you haven't heard one read before, there are whereases, so get ready. So whereas in 1976, Black History Week was expanded and established as Black History Month, and people across the United States and abroad have dedicated the month of February to honor and uplift the often overlooked accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. And whereas Black culture and Black experience are fibers woven into American culture, and Black stories play an essential role in the ongoing story of the United States. And it is paramount to recognize and acknowledge this historical and present obstacles and injustices facing Black Americans and celebrate the leadership, contributions, legacies, and achievements of Black Americans. And whereas the Black History Month theme for 2023 is Black Resistance, Building Bridges and Navigating Barriers. And this theme highlights the legacy of how African Americans have resisted historic and ongoing systemic oppression. And whereas San Rafael celebrates the contribution of Black Americans in our city and throughout our nation, and recognizes the struggle and breakthrough from historical efforts to undermine Black and African pathways to success, and commits to allyship and to educate staff and the community on anti-racism, equity, and inclusion. Now, therefore, the City Council of San Rafael hereby proclaims the month of February 2023 as Black History Month and recognizes the historic drive for equity and accomplishments, and the many ongoing contributions made in our society and our local community across Marin County and San Rafael. And I'm honored that Chief Spiller is here to accept the proclamation and say a few words. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. I'm honored as well. So thank you, Mayor Kate, and thank you to members of the City Council. This is a powerful and special recognition. With the Council's recognition of Black History Month, I'm incredibly pleased and privileged to offer a brief comment to acknowledge or receive this proclamation. I'm grateful and I'm appreciative that our City Council, that our organization recognizes the rich history and the contributions of Black Americans locally and across the United States, as you stated in the proclamation. As Americans, we value but often take for granted the uniqueness and the greatness of our democracy, what it represents and how it's intended to serve each of us. Carving out this month to recognize and celebrate contributions of Black Americans is incredibly important. This proclamation symbolizes San Rafael's promise to not only celebrate the legacy, but to recognize the struggle of Black Americans. I'm proud to be a part of this organization. I'm incredibly proud to be a part of this organization that honors the work of Black Americans who have created a more fair and inclusive democracy, moving our nation forward and helping to advance the realization of its full promise to everyone. So thank you, Mayor Kate, members of the council, for this proclamation, this recognition in celebrating the many achievements and contributions made by African Americans to our economic, our cultural, our spiritual, and our political development. Thank you for the recognition.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you for your comments. Okay. The next, switching gears, we have our interim financial update and budget amendment to reflect operational activity mid-year personnel changes. Welcome. Okay, and I know it might take a bit to get that up, so. Yep, no, I see it.
All right, here I am.
Okay, and is your
Thank you,
microphone on?
Mayor.
Yes.
City Council. So I'm Sean Plate. I'm the principal accountant here with the city, here to give you your mid-year budget update. So at a summary level, we're now forecasting sales tax revenues, an increase of 1.5 million from the prior forecast, and we're requesting $1 million of that be appropriated. Well, I guess I'll talk about that later. And we have some proposed personnel changes. So first of all, with sales tax, in December, we got our final remittance for the quarter ending in September, and it came in extraordinarily high. And it was due to an adjustment within the county pool. And the county pool can really be thought of as your online sales tax, and it gets pooled at the county level and allocated down to the cities. And the adjustment saw another Marin agency, their allocation dropped below zero, which hyperinflated ours to the tune of over $1 million. So really substantial. And then I added this graphic below just to show kind of what we're seeing with sales tax growth currently. Not so much more activity as much as the activity that exists is being transacted at a higher price point. You can see in this graphic, is just the impact that inflation has on sales tax growth. And so of this 1.5 million that we're forecasting, we are requesting additional appropriations of $1 million in order to shore up our general fund overtime for public safety. We've had a number of illnesses and injury as well as having unfilled positions that's causing a lot of backfill. And so we're asking for these appropriations in order to shore that up and ensure that we end the year within our legal budget. All right, on to our economic forecast. So we're still in this environment of rising interest rates, combating inflation. And the general consensus right now is that we're very likely to see a slowdown or recession at some point in fiscal 23. However, it's not expected to be severe or have tremendous duration. And that's mainly because it's a manufactured slowdown or recession. And should things get too bad, well, now we have the tool to reverse that in the form of reducing interest rates. To bring that locally in San Rafael, we're expecting to see these impacts more later in the year. The indicators that we're seeing aren't giving us any cause for concern right now. And what we've seen is that San Rafael has been somewhat insulated from kind of economic shock in the past. So we will expect that it will happen, but probably into the next fiscal year or later this calendar year. On to ARPA reporting. So this is as of December 31st, 2022. We have earmarked or spent $9.3 million of our ARPA money. So this doesn't include what has been talked about in January. So I mean, we've gotten a lot of money out there right now, but still significant investment left to go. Oh, and then the staffing piece. I really get into detail in the staff report that isn't really necessary for the presentation. But the point I want to drive home is that 3 of the positions are completely absorbed by their respective budgets and do not result in additional headcount. The one additional headcount will be absorbed by the paramedic tax budget and the general fund, partially by each. And then as far as what's next, we'll come back to you in September with the year-end results, and we will continue to report on the ARPA fund use, and of course, monitor our economic environment and come to you with any concerns or that we may have. All right, and with that, I recommend that you adopt a resolution approving amendments to the fiscal 22-23 budget and personnel changes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Plate. So let me see if there are any questions. Vice Mayor, no questions? I see.
No questions.
Okay, Councilmember Bushy.
Thank you. I want to ask you about sort of an ominous sentence in your staff report. On page 2, you say, we are seeing trends of expenditures outpacing revenues in the areas of childcare, parking, and liability programs. Should these trends persist, we may seek additional appropriations. Could you elaborate a little bit on the childcare, parking, and liability programs?
Okay, so childcare and parking are really pandemic related. That has been since the pandemic started. I know there's been a lot of work done recently with parking in trying to see where we can come up with additional revenues there. But currently they are running at a bit of a deficit, and thinking about next year, we'll probably have to see where they stand with that. Childcare, it's the same thing. I think enrollment's just down since the pandemic, and it's I don't have the insight into the sites and what's happening granularly, but overall, it's just been pandemic related. And then as far as liability, we had some big payments in the liability program early in the year that were out of the ordinary. And you can see it if you look month to month. I think it was August was really high. In going back to that, after looking at it probably again and looking at it in my head now that you talked to me about it, I wouldn't say that it would be that the projection of the first half of the year will be would extend the entire fiscal year. So we might not be as bad there, but we certainly have room in the liability fund, being that it's fully funded.
Okay, but circling back to childcare and I suppose to a lesser extent parking, these are important programs for our residents, and I'm sure that the staff will keep us fully informed if there are any significant modifications required to those programs to address these ominous sounding financial situation. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Additional questions? I'll go ahead, Councilmember Kurtz.
Just a quick question on the ARPA funds. Are we time constrained on those?
We use the funds for revenue loss. So, but I believe, and I haven't bothered to look at the regulations since we filed all that paperwork, but I believe we will have to get that at least encumbered by 12/31/24, I believe, and then spent by 12/31/26. I believe those are the dates.
I think Director Artia-Haight will provide additional clarity on this question. Yes.
So we are not. We would be had we, should we actually be trying to spend down ARPA money. We have committed our obligation to the federal government for reporting purposes. We continue to report out on it, but we basically we were eligible under one of their ARPA requirements. And so we were able to report on using it for revenue loss. However, we have earmarked the funds so that they can go towards capital projects only. And so that money is available to us. We often refer to it as ARPA money, but we should probably start referring to it as capital project, general fund money or reserve. Yes. And so we do not have the requirements that many other cities do at this point.
Thank you. Additional questions?
Good move. One more. Is the county doing a projection for next year at this point? Because we've been in a period of inflation for quite a while. Now it's starting to calm and the interest rates were not, they're very, very small adjustment. So is the county now still projecting to have this increase in the sales tax revenue, or are they staying flat?
The county.
Well, the sales tax that are coming through.
So the sales tax forecasts are really coming from a consultant, and what they're forecasting is what we're putting in here. We're not adjusting their forecast at all. I'm sorry, the county thing is throwing.
So sorry, not the county. That's more school board when we talk about the county.
Okay.
But in terms of then their projection, what are they projecting out for next year?
For next year, I think it's much the same. I would love to revisit that, but they are looking at the impact is certainly going to be felt in the autos, and that's one of our big three. So, I mean, we were kind of surprised to see that there wasn't really much of an impact at all in the first quarter of when we had dramatically increasing rates, and so that's what's kind of calmed our fears with this economic environment we're in. But we are expecting a slowdown there. And I think we're expecting about -2% growth for next year was the prediction, I want to say. And then growth from there on out was the projection.
Okay, great.
So yeah, some impact, but nothing to worry about too much.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hill?
Yes, Noted in the staff report, a replenishment of the emergency reserve in the amount of about 322,000. I take from that, or infer anyway, that we had depleted and 322,000 gets us back to say 10% as part of our policy. Is that accurate?
Right. Because appropriations got increased and when our emergency reserve is 10% of appropriations, the emergency reserve gets increased as well. That's exactly right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll see if there's any comment from the public on this item. I will look to the chambers. So opening public comment on the interim financial update and budget amendments. Not seeing anyone. Madam City Clerk, is there anyone online who'd like to comment on this budget item?
I do see a hand raised, and as a reminder, you can use the raise hand feature or you can press *9.
Good evening. This is Bill Carney from Sustainable San Rafael, and also a member of the tree group that's been working with DPW on the revised street tree ordinance, which was included in your fiscal year 22-23 goals and objectives for completion last summer. So I want to reiterate the question that Amy Lykover of our group raised earlier tonight, which is what is the current timeline for council consideration of the revised street tree ordinance? We look forward to completion of this important budget objective prior to the process of setting fresh objectives for fiscal year 23-24. And we look forward to your response this evening. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. We'll collect questions and then we'll ask staff to respond.
I see no other hands raised, and I'll give everyone a moment. I see no further public comment.
Thank you. I will close the public comment. So the question we received actually during open time, which we can't respond to it, but we also received it during the agendized item. So thank you, Mr. Carney, for calling in. And it was very specific about the street tree ordinance. And I see Director April Miller.
Hi, thank you. Yes, we've been working closely with the tree group. So the plan is to come to council this fiscal year. So it will still be part of the 22-23 goals. We have not set a specific date yet. But the reason why it's been delayed is due to staff capacity. We had a lot of things going on. We have the big dredge that's almost done, which took a lot of staff time to coordinate with individual property owners. In addition, Public Works also was working on the streetery program. And we're the main, at this point, we're the main department who's working on that. So we need to get both of those two initiatives far enough along that we had enough capacity to work on the street tree ordinance. So the street tree ordinance is next. So we will be doing it this fiscal year.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And as always, we appreciate how you prioritize the different projects with the limited resources we have. So thank you, Director Miller. Okay, with that, I don't think there are any other questions. Unless there are additional questions from the council, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Wait, do you want Councilmember Kurtz to read in?
Sorry.
She was ready to move on. It's on page 4, midway page 4.
Adopt a resolution adopting amendments to the 2022-2023 budget and approving mid-year personnel changes.
Thank you. And there was a
second
from Councilmember Bushy.
Roll call, please.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushy.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Yadens-Galati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 5-0. And before we move to the next item, I want to thank and recognize outgoing Administrative Director Nadine Atiahaid. She has been fantastic at shepherding our financials, our HR for the past couple of years. Time has flown. We're really grateful. We know you're going on to the next chapter. You will be missed, and the city is better for you having been here. So thank you. I just wanted to recognize you. Thank you. The last item this evening is the B Street two-way conversion. And I see DPW Director April Miller coming down. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor and council members, for having us tonight. So tonight we're here to talk about the B Street conversion to two ways. So this concept has come to council before, both with the downtown precise plan when it was adopted in August of 2021 and in last February in 2022 as part of the 3rd Street rehabilitation project where the 3rd Street at B Street intersection was already converted. And we said that we were going to come back before anything else happened. So here we are today. So I have our traffic engineer, Nat Fawn, who's going to present for us tonight.
Welcome, Nat.
Thank you, April. Good evening, Mayor Kate and fellow council members. Thank you for this opportunity to present tonight. So today we're going to be presenting on B Street conversion project, giving an update and this information and also seeking feedback on this. Okay, so here's the project overview. C and D Street were actually converted to two-way, and this was all completed in fiscal year 2020. As the next phase of this project to basically do two-way conversions in the downtown area. Our plan is to implement converting B Street into a two-way by summer of 2023. Our plan is to basically complete it all within the same phasing that we did for C and D Street. The first phase would be basically improving the intersections, getting traffic signal ped heads, signals, program timing in place. The second phase would be basically restriping, adding pavement markings, and additional roadway improvements south of 4th Street. And then phase 3 would be completing the rest of the tie-in and pavement striping up to 5th Street. So currently our outreach schedule that we've completed so far to date this year of 2023 is we mailed out notification letters to businesses 300 feet within the project site. We've actually had a virtual meeting for Federation of San Rafael Neighborhoods meeting, and that was completed on January 12th. We had a B Street community outreach virtual meeting on January 18th. Tonight, we are presenting to City Council. We do have 2 other further meetings coming up, which is the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, BPAC, which is scheduled for this Wednesday on the 8th for more additional outreach. Originally, we're scheduled for February 1st, but we had a couple of delays and we had to postpone it to this week. And then we do have another meeting for outreach, the San Rafael Chamber of Commerce, which is scheduled for next week on the 14th. So a little bit of information on why converting a one-way to two-way is so beneficial is we're improving the emergency response time. Today in the downtown area, we've converted C and D Street. By converting B Street, we're actually giving PD and also fire another outlet to basically travel through the city for emergencies. Vehicular mobility. So with vehicular mobility, we're not increasing the amount of traffic traveling through downtown. What we're doing is we're basically balancing the traffic through different corridors. Based on data that I've looked at, C and D Street, when they were converted, we're actually introducing and allowing vehicles to travel through those corridors. We're looking at anywhere between 700 to 1,000 vehicles per day traveling those roadways in the opposite direction. So what we're doing is we're actually moving traffic from heavy congested roadways and balancing them through by giving them another outlet. Another benefit would be lowering traffic speed. Typically on one-way streets, you have cars traveling at high speeds. But for this project, if we're basically doing a road diet, we're allowing two different directions of traffic, we're actually adding benefits to actually have cars slow down. And there is a lot of improvements that's going to happen. Storefront visibility, similar to C and D Street, where there's a lot more vehicles traveling through the corridor. And in this case, for the businesses, the streeteries, all those businesses are there. We're introducing more vehicles to come through a corridor, and that's very beneficial for the businesses. The panel above it's a panel view of the improvements that we're going to be doing between 2nd to 5th Street. The little section cutouts that you see down below are the improvements that we're going to be doing. A lot of it, we're going to be doing pavement restriping. Parking stays the same. So the total amount of parking spaces that we do have out there will remain the same. The streeteries that we have out there can function as they are functioning today. So we're not impacting them. We are, on the other hand, adding a turn pocket on 2nd Street and B Street. So on the next slide, I'm going to give a little bit more detail in regards to that. So as we do this road diet and add directional vehicles to travel in both directions, we're adding a left turn pocket on 2nd Street. And as you all know, 2nd Street is a pretty busy street in the east and west corridor. This is one of your typical intersection improvements that we're going to be doing. And it's going to be furnishing and installing traffic and pedestrian signal heads at intersections. So that alone adds a lot of improvements with moving vehicles around and also making it safe for pedestrians to cross. Here is a proposed cross-section view. Vehicles that can travel north and south, and you're still going to have additional parking or the same amount of parking on both sides. Our anticipated timeline right now is continue the outreach until the end of February, but our communication outlets will always be open. So whether officials or the public would like to continue to reach out to us and provide some feedbacks, the thoughts on this, we're always open for that. Again, we have 2 meetings, BPAC and Chamber of Commerce meetings over the next 2 weeks. Our plan right now is to finalize the design, hopefully by April, and then implement construction sometime in summer 2023 in conjunction with the 3rd Street rehabilitation project. And here is the website for where we will be posting our information up, any feedbacks as well. Please feel free to contact me as well. My email and number are attached below. And I would like to open this up for any questions. Your feedback would be appreciated.
Thank you, Nat. Excellent presentation. I'll see if there are questions. I'll start with the Vice Mayor. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much for the presentation. I have a couple of questions. The first one is kind of like a food for thought, and I'm thinking on if you can, I don't know if you can go to slide 6, but I'm just looking at the crosswalks on the, like 4-way crosswalks, like crossing.
Okay.
That one, yeah. So this is what I'm thinking. The first thing is like when you are switching on B Street, as you are going, I don't know if that's south, but if you're going from 3rd to 2nd Street, 3rd to 2nd Street, there are going to be some cars that they are going to take a right and some cars that they are going to go straight. So that could actually create, sorry, I'm just thinking for 1 second here. Okay, so actually is this the cars that they are going to go on B Street, passing 2nd towards 3rd, if they are taking a left on 2nd, they're going to have to wait, but that one, sorry, it's kind of hard to see from here. So that one actually has like a specific lane to be kind of like an A Street, right? Where you have like 2 lanes, one for left and one to go straight. Thank you. So if you see the little car right there,
okay,
there is a lane. So I'm just thinking somebody that needs to take a left, they're going to have to wait for the cars that represents the truck to go by. But it has a specific little lane in there that they can just wait so the traffic can continue to go straight and then right, because those are always like really busy, right? If you are, okay, actually you don't take a right in there because it's 2nd Street.
Yeah, correct. So there wouldn't be a right.
Okay.
A lot of this on the intersection, we're actually going to look at the counts, the total amount of cars that come through. And a lot of this we can fix and add programming to the intersection to kind of give enough time for cars to kind of move through the corridor. So that's something that we'll be taking a closer look at But all movements will be protected to where, cars can safely travel through this intersection.
Okay, so here's my food for thought. If you see, and I don't know what that is, but is that the north crosswalk? I was just thinking, can we just eliminate that one? And I'm thinking the same thing like on A and 2nd Street, because I think a lot of the time it is dangerous for the people that are crossing. And also it really slows the traffic for the cars that they are trying to take a left in the intersection. And I was just thinking, is that really necessary to have 3 of them? So that's just my food for thought. I don't know.
Thank you for that. We can have our consultants take a closer look at that. Are there enough pedestrians that cross through that area, and is it really needed? So we'll take a closer look at that as we work on the design.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's for the pedestrians, they have to do probably maybe an extra cross, but I'm just thinking it just gets so congested that maybe that could be an easy way to make it less congested and maybe safer as well.
Are you thinking about the north-south direction or east-west?
What is north? Is north the top of the square?
North is on this side.
Yeah, north.
So it would be the west? Is that west?
The west, which is on 2nd Street, right?
Is it the top? Is there like a,
Yeah, so those are the crossings that go north-south. And so not on the north and south side, but they travel from north to south. They cross 2nd Street.
Yes.
And so this B Street is actually considered in the precise plan, part of the pedestrian network. Yeah, the pedestrian priority network. And so we can look at removing those, but it's been identified as a key area. So we wouldn't want to remove a north-south crossing. That's why I was trying to clarify if it's people who are crossing 2nd Street or going the other direction. So that's something that we're weighing there, is trying to make sure that we follow the precise plan.
Okay, yeah. I mean, if you can look at it into it would be great, because I know it's for pedestrians and I walk those streets, but I'm also recognizing the traffic and also sometimes the cars are just not respecting the pedestrians very well because they're just trying to go, so in terms of safety. So that was just one of my questions. Then I guess you have put already a lane in there, which is great. Do you have I know when we did was it C Street, you put a red area as you approach 2nd Street?
Yeah,
So that would be red also, so cars wouldn't be able to park in there, so there's more room.
Yeah. So for safety near the intersections, those areas will be red curbs so that cars can't park there, so that cars can travel there.
Great, thank you. My last question is around the feedback. What was the feedback from the merchants, and did you get any feedback? Wondering if you got feedback from residents from Gerstle Park, because I think those are the areas that they're going to be more affected.
Yeah, we actually received quite a few feedback so far. It's very promising on their support for it. In addition to, we've been asked to take a look at, for future improvements, pedestrians and crossing for those who actually walk and also bike through the area. So with this design that we're proposing, it doesn't restrict us from the improvements on per our downtown plan and all that to make those adjustments later on. This project alone is just to improve for vehicle travel through, but that is something that CIP is actually going to be looking at as well to improve pedestrian and bicycles through that corridor. So there's a lot of future potential.
Yeah, we actually applied for a highway safety improvement program grant, which we're supposed to hear back sometime in February, for 2nd Street to look at improving the curb ramps through there and the pedestrian experience at that intersection. So we're hoping to hear back sometime in the next few weeks. It was supposed to be last month, but they delayed it. So we're hopeful for that grant, because we heard they received extra money than they initially anticipated. So, but we'll continue to look at with the CIP the rest of B Street and downtown.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll go this way. Councilmember Kurtz.
Thank you. My question is also on the feedback around the bike and pedestrian. and thank you for the report. It's great to be able to see this. And from my reading and research around the two-way, it really does improve the safety. So that's very clear, as well as the help for emergency to be able to have that access. So I think this makes a lot of sense. Not that Google's the expert, but that's the best I have right now is looking at the Google map. We don't have a lot of north-south bike. We have all the way down Anderson, Heatherton, some of the bike path there. But when you look, at least according to Google, we're good on east-west, but nothing north-south. So for our mission, it's really difficult to get to the other end, to go. So I do think that we need to look at how best to improve something between all the way down from Lincoln to all the way west through West End. We don't have a north-south bike path. So I think that would be really helpful to have some place to send people to. So thank you. And that's sort of my feedback on that. But I absolutely think this is a great plan and at least consistent with our other streets. So that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions, Councilmember Hill?
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Nat, for presenting on this item. My take away from the main objective of converting is around the public safety, being able to move both directions. So I think I understand that that's an objective. Based on some of the feedback we've received from the public, I think that there is a request for consideration for additional things that would around pedestrian and bicycle. My question is there room to consider that as part of the current 3rd Street rehabilitation project, or is there any efficiency in considering what we could fit in now versus, say, starting it up later? I understand there are constraints that we must stay within budget. I'm always curious around how creative we can be around leveraging contingency, and I think you mentioned funding opportunity. So I guess how creative can we be to include now, and would we gain efficiency by trying to include some of those improvements now?
Yeah, I mean, we're here tonight and for the next month or so to ask for feedback. We're hoping we get some feedback also from BPAC later this week about different ideas. Nat did show that there is a little room in the cross section there where they're 14-foot lanes, which you can go down to a 10-foot lane, which is pretty narrow, but we usually do 11-foot lanes. So there is a little extra space in those travel lanes to allow for sharrows, which is what we usually do when there's not enough space for a bike lane. So we could consider putting in sharrows on the street, or, I don't know, looking at maybe fog lines or a different way to set the vehicles away so bikes could ride on B Street. But yeah, I mean, we could look at that a little bit closer and then also kind of review that this week with BPAC to see their thoughts on that. I know C Street is identified as a north-south, and so there are sharrows along C Street, but we could also do it on B Street if we feel that there's enough space there.
Great. Yeah, I'm eager to hear some of the comments tonight, but also comments from BPAC, Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bushy.
Thanks so much, Ned. Just a couple of quick questions. You mentioned that there will be more red painting near the intersections. Are we losing any parking spaces as well?
No, we're not. With this phase of B Street, everything will remain the same.
Fantastic. Thank you. Last question. The process for C and D, for converting C and D, seemed to go very smoothly. That is, we didn't hear anything about it. So I just want to confirm that you'll be following that same process for this one.
Correct. So we will be breaking it out to 3 phases as to how we did it for C and D Street, and it should operate and run pretty smoothly.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I just want to clarify one thing about the parking. So we're initially considering not removing any parking, but with C and D Street, as we see how it operates and stuff, we did end up adding some red curb to help with some of the turning movements that we weren't quite sure how they were going to operate. So our initial plan is to not remove any parking, but just, as things go, if we see a backup on cars trying to make a right, or, if we're trying to add, like we added a left turn pocket based on the feedback we got from C&D at 2nd Street. And so we're learning from what happened on the other project. So we'll see how it goes over the next, once it's implemented, for a few months.
Yes, go ahead. You have another question?
So I just want to clarify. So on C&D, when you got to operationalize it, where you did introduce red was, say, at the right turn areas when you saw that cars were taking up more space more at the intersection side than in the middle.
Correct. And we also added a left turn pocket on D Street at 2nd, because that was the busier of the C and D, and we saw more backup on D Street. So we had to add red curb in order to fit in a turn pocket there, but also for right turns. So we have cameras downtown, so we can watch how things are operated, and we also hear public comment. People reach out to us on different operations, so we can see how it's performing and then assess later on what we need to do.
And one more clarifying question. So that could result, if we introduce two-way on B, that we see that there's more even distribution. It could actually create opportunities where we may, anyway, well, what I'm hearing is that we can always continue to make changes operationally.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
So I just have, sorry, I think when we were looking at the chart, it was 3rd Street, not 2nd, right? Because it was going that way?
Second.
It was
Street.
2nd. Okay. All right.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll have additional questions. I just have two of my own. So we have an approved bicycle pedestrian advisory committee plan, right? And so that has been the nexus for much of the changes that have been going on. Is that correct? Yeah. And I just confirming that, because it's one thing for us to give suggestions, which we want to keep getting the input, and there was a lot of input that went into that plan as well. So really continuing to utilize that information that we've had already.
Yeah. In addition, the downtown precise plan, which also had a lot of outreach to both of those, talk about this.
Right. So I think we're kind of fine tuning what we've already started in process, and building on some of these other questions. Will the pedestrians get the head start? I know there's a fancier name for that.
That would be a leading pedestrian interval, LPI.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Because that might be one way to work to address that kind of pedestrian car interaction. Right. And then my last question was, so the hotel is on B Street and it's not open yet. And to me, it looks like the garage will actually be on B Street, right? The entrance of the garage. And it was interesting when you talked about the reasons why. I was surprised that wasn't on there, because hotel means people that don't live here are coming here. And one-way streets are unusual. I know we're used to them here. We think it's really quaint and lovely about San Rafael, but for people that are going to be coming specifically to that street, I really feel having a two-way street is very, very important. So maybe add that to the reason why. I'm sorry?
Another good reason.
Another good reason. Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully we'll have lots of people coming and going from the hotel. Okay, so with that, I know that we have received some letters via email. So thank you for those folks that have emailed that. And I will open it up the public comment to those in the room. Come on down, and if you'd like to introduce yourself and say what part of San Rafael you are requested but not obligated to, you'll have 2 minutes.
Sure, thank you. And thank you, Nat and April, for that presentation.
Thank you.
I'm Phil Mooney from Gerstle Park, and I appreciate being given the opportunity to speak tonight. B Street should be converted into a two-way street, as this plan states. It's been in the works for years, and it's a good thing, but we need more for pedestrians out of this project. B Street is designated as the pedestrian priority route in the downtown precise plan, and for good reason. It connects a vibrant network of bars and restaurants, small businesses, and residential developments. Along this route is St. Vincent's, an area serving our homeless that sees very crowded sidewalks multiple times throughout the day. The entrance to two of the largest city-owned parking lots, the A Street and C Street garages, have entries on B Street between 3rd and 4th within the scope of this project. These lots have 388 and 390 parking stalls, respectively. The city's 2017 parking study showed the parking lots never come near full capacity. So we know that the street is very busy with pedestrians, and we know that it is surrounded by abundant and underutilized parking. So let's rethink this project and sacrifice a small amount of street parking to make it safe and inviting for pedestrians. Imagine a B Street with wide sidewalks, improved lighting, welcoming seating areas, fencing, loading zones, and both ADA and bicycle parking. B Street should become more than just another route for cars downtown. It should become a true multi-use street. The Downtown Precise Plan calls for this to be a pedestrian priority route. Let's follow the guidance of our very own plan and make it happen. The time for action on this project is right now, when the road design is already changing. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mooney, and thank you for your email as well. Yep.
Good evening, Mayor Kate and council members. My name is Frank Lind. I live on Taylor Street between C and D. We've been there for almost 25 years this year. So I support the idea of making B Street two-way. To me, it seems like this is sort of the final piece of the public safety center the wonderful public safety center that this council is responsible for, and then making C and D two-way. Now we're going to get to this final. To me, it's like the final piece. Let's make B Street two-way. But I do want to commend the prior speaker and really embrace his comments. And I sent you a letter today, and to Nat as well, asking to please take this opportunity to focus on the pedestrian-friendly aspect of the B Street conversion. We definitely need more pedestrian-friendly amenities, and I'm perfectly happy to sacrifice parking spaces for that reason. There's ample garage parking nearby, but B Street, it's a beautiful. When you look at the architecture on B Street, it's one of the most historic streets we have, in not just in San Rafael, but in all of Marin. It's quite the beautiful 19th century buildings there, but it all has a little bit of a seedy feeling right now because it's not pedestrian friendly. So let's focus on not just the traffic flow, but also please focus and use the time now. Don't wait till later. I appreciated the question from you, Mr. Hill. We shouldn't wait and postpone the pedestrian improvements till some later time. Let's try to do this in a comprehensive, sort of holistic way. Take care of the pedestrian-friendly aspects and the traffic rearrangement at the same time if possible. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Yes, we did get your letter today too as well, so thank you. Others in the chamber? Not seeing anyone. Is there anyone virtually who'd like to comment on the B Street two-way conversion?
We do have some hands raised.
Hi, my name is Susan Nawberry. I live like off of Lincoln, but I used to live in Gersel Park. I walk and bike a lot, but sometimes I drive to downtown because honestly, the car traffic can be pretty stressful on a bike. San Rafael is very car centric. It can be a little scary and intimidating. People speed through right turns. One thing I'd like to suggest is that city consider putting bulb outs on B Street. There's a lot of like red stripe to create pedestrian visibility, but frankly, when you're behind a car on the sidewalk, cars can't see you, especially when they're speeding. But I'm otherwise in full support of turning B Street into two-way and slowing down traffic. San Rafael doesn't have enough space for pedestrians when compared to San Anselmo and Fairfax, which have much more thriving and enjoyable downtown spaces when compared to San Rafael. And I think that the success of the businesses, it really shows. Like downtown is San Rafael is kind of depressing, like things closing. But when you look at Fairfax, Larkspur, and San Rafael, they're a lot more San Anselmo, sorry. They're a lot more pedestrian friendly and the businesses are thriving. And I think that there's a really, really strong correlation to just enjoying being in a downtown area and not being worried about speeding traffic. But I would really like to encourage staff to look into the feasibility of bulb outs. Being at ground level with speeding traffic, even with soft hit post is unnerving, but I really think it's an opportunity to experiment with something like a bulb out too. So thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Terrific. I lived south of 2nd Street, and I will tell you that the cars that now go down D Street and try to make a left turn onto 2nd Street no longer do that. They come into Gerstle Park. And I thought that for a long time. And then somebody brought it up at our annual meeting recently that they want to start getting crossing guards because there's so many people coming down D Street to get literally to the freeway, which I do the same thing. There's no reason not to do that. It's much faster. You cannot get more than 2 cars through on a left turn with cars coming north on D Street. But it looks like it works because now everybody just comes down D Street. So I wanted to bring that up. Also, as of last Friday, I either had on the phone or physically went in every single, I would say, let me say 90% of the retail businesses on B Street. I found one that had conversations with the Public Works Department. Everybody else looked at me like I was from another planet when I asked if the city had gotten in touch with them. So someone's not telling the truth here. I don't know who it is, but there's a big issue with communication with businesses. The only one that I know, and they actually told me that they were not in support and wrote a letter to Nat, was the furniture store. So there's something weird about all that. Let's see, what else? I was in the 2 meetings that you guys had for the public. One of them was announced being on the Thursday, the 18th. The 18th was not a Thursday, it was a Wednesday. So that might be why a lot of people didn't show up. I'm not sure. The other one is that it was only announced on Nextdoor according to April. And that also had incorrect information of saying that it was Thursday, the 18th. So I suggest doing a little bit more public outreach because anybody that I've asked this to, and it's been a lot of people, have not been in support of making B Street 2 ways. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. This is Barry Toronto again. I live in Terra Linda, but of all the streets in downtown San Rafael that I frequent the most, it would be B Street in addition to 4th Street because of the type of businesses there. You have the community center, you have the Safeway, you have various eating establishments and bars and restaurants along that corridor. And if the community wants it, so be it. But you need to have some mitigation measures in order to avoid traffic mess because it is a major street for getting out of town on 2nd Street or going inbound, westbound. So the thing is I didn't hear a lot of traffic counts from the traffic engineer, and in terms of where they frequent the most, but you definitely need a left turn arrow at B and 2nd Street in order to allow enough cars to make the left turn from there, and also to make sure there's kind of like 2 lanes halfway through the block. That block is heavily traveled between 2nd and 3rd. People coming inbound and outbound on either street. So I urge you to hold this off until you get more feedback and come up with more turn pockets and actually have money for left turn arrows. I think it's going to cause problems on 2nd and 3rd Street because B Street again has major businesses and venues on it that people use, that people frequent, and I think it's a problem. Although it could help the emergency vehicles, but I doubt it with increased traffic during certain times of the day and night. So please look at the traffic counts. Thank you very much.
Hi, Council. This is Warren Wells, Policy and Plan Director for the Marin County Bicycle Coalition. Just wanted to speak in support of staff's plan to convert B Street to 2-way. Especially within our cities, we really want to be fostering pedestrian activity and bicycle connectivity. I just, during the meeting, I pulled up the number of crashes on B Street. In the last 10 years, there have been 19 people hit while walking and 10 people hit while bicycling. 3 of those crashes were severe. And we know from good research that one of the best ways to both make crashes less likely to happen, and if they do happen, less severe, is to slow down that maximum speed. And so multi-lane streets, like B Street is currently, are conducive to fast travel, whereas a 2-way street makes it much more likely that a crash won't occur in the first place, or if it does occur, it will not be so severe. I really want to speak in support of Mr. Mooney's comments for further pedestrianization of B Street, which again is identified as a pedestrian priority route in the general plan. But overall, I want to speak in support of staff's recommendations. Thank you so much.
I see no more hands raised, but I'll give everyone a moment. I see no further public comment.
Thank you. I will close the public comment and really appreciate the input that we received so far. And one of the questions, I heard a couple questions and one kind of came to the top because there is more opportunity to give input. And one is at the BPAC, Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee meeting. Is that an open meeting to folks, to people who aren't on the BPAC? And if so, could you just maybe give the information how someone could participate if they would like to give additional information?
So if you seek up or look up San Rafael and look up the BPAC meetings that we have scheduled, there will be a link for them to either call in or log in. Everyone is always open to also reach out to me as well. And I would take down their ideas and also see if that's something that's feasible for us to include.
And is that meeting this third? Now I got confused on the dates.
So BPAC meeting will be this week on Wednesday. And then next week is going to be the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
And that'll be on the 14th.
Yeah. Well, that's important because, and I appreciate you also receiving emails. I think it is important to folks want to get in conversation because of BPAC, that is the community group where we utilize as a liaison for these types of issues. So, and I don't know if these were direct questions, but I think there were inferrals. I'd heard suggestions or comments around changing the sidewalks, and I wasn't aware that that was part of this project. So if you could speak to any changes to the sidewalk. And then also, if this is approved, ultimately, tonight we're just accepting a report, if that is what the council so chooses, about traffic counts and traffic flow. And I think you've already answered that a little bit, but maybe just hit that again about how you would go back and look at traffic flow and any other modifications.
Yeah, I'll answer your first question. So this project is only funded right now for striping and signal exercise. But what we're doing does not preclude future projects of widening sidewalks, removing parking, doing bulb outs. And that's why I mentioned that we're trying to get the funding for 2nd Street. So that's I know that's only one of the 4 intersections, but that's one way to get funding. And then we could explore what we want to do on the other ones. This project, we could add this project as part of the CIP, which we're planning on doing to rank against other projects to make it a standalone B Street project, to widen it so we can follow the precise plan. But that would have to take other money than what we have saved for this portion.
That's really helpful. Thank you. And then about the traffic flows.
So with the traffic flows and the studies, we do have a consultant that's working on the design currently, and we can have them take a closer look at all the data, how C and D streets been improved, and then also take a look at this, like what other movements do we need to have them consider. A lot of that's going to be taken a look at on the first phase of the project, where we look at the counts and actually program the timing of the intersections accordingly to that. So from now until when we start implementation of construction and all that, a lot of that's going to be considered and analyzed thoroughly multiple times. So that is something that we are taking a closer look at. With the total amount of funding that we have available, we're actually, this is kind of being in conjunction, being done with 3rd Street, with some of the intersection improvements as well. So we do have opportunities in the future to improve pedestrian and bicycle. We totally see that it's a vital part of the community and part of downtown. It's beautiful. I've had a chance over the last 3 months since I've been here to drive downtown. And with the total amount of vehicles and traffic and pedestrians, there's so many, it's beautiful. There's so many opportunities. And as we take a closer look at future planning for the peds and bikes per our plans, downtown San Rafael precise plan, we'll start to incorporate a lot of that and seek funding. There's a lot of big open windows for additional grants coming up this year as well that we'll be seeking for additional funding to make those improvements. But for now, with the money that we do have available, restriping, signal heads and stuff, that is something that's minimal that we can include for this improvement during this time.
Thank you. And I think we do understand the phased approach, especially if it doesn't preclude future projects. So let me get final comments before we entertain a motion. I'll start with the Vice Mayor. Final comments?
Yes, no, I look forward to more feedback from the community. Thank you. I I can see that intersection on Second, that used to be like coming from Safeway into Second, going southbound, right, left. Now it's going to be like taking a left in there. I feel that that's going to be a crunch for cars, and so I look forward to also maybe take a look at A Street with the stoplights, where sometimes you just allow cars to go left. And I'm excited, I'm excited about the people walking. I think maybe we can be creative and make it safer for people that are walking and biking, but at the same time, not create like a huge traffic jam. So that's what I kind of like feel. But yeah, those are my comments. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Councilmember Kurtz.
I really appreciate the conversation and the outreach to the community. I think more conversations clearly are going to be coming. And the focus on safety is obviously the most critical piece to this. So thank you. And I think at the end of the day, once we get the right solution, it will really improve downtown. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councilmember Hill.
Yeah, thank you, Nat, April, and the entire Public Works Department for examining this and trying to make sure we're being as thoughtful as possible. I also want to just be grateful to community members who are stepping forward to share a vision for what our future can be. I do think that those voices are consistent with the general Plan 2040 as well as our downtown precise plan. I think the constraints of budget are obviously real. I think we should see whatever we can do to try to bring them forward, but I understand the constraints. So let's continue to take in public comment, as we've said tonight, as an informational report. I'm always of the mind that let's try as much as we can to define what the color, as a metaphor, the coloring book is, and color in as much as we can, as much crayon as we can. Sorry, I have a 5.5-year-old daughter, so I think in those metaphors. Thank you for the informational report tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Bushy.
Well, my children are a little bit older than 5 years, so I'm out of the crayon metaphor world. But I support this project as the first step. There we go. First step in moving on to towards our vision of the pedestrian and bicycle friendly corridor on the street. And every journey begins with one step. So let's get this one done. Take in all of the comments and suggestions that we can, particularly from our BPAC, and use that to foster a vision for the future.
Thank you. And I'll just close by appreciate the presentation, Nat and Director Miller. Thank you so much. Our streets there's a lot of balancing. There's a balancing act because there are a lot of competing interests in a way. Sometimes they overlap in a positive way, and sometimes there's tension between the two. So I really appreciate how you are being thoughtful about what can be done. And as I just mentioned, and as you've been talked about, is not precluding something that might happen going forward. I think that is important. I was really impressed how you have talked about slows the traffic. We all know that is probably the best way to have drivers going slower and more carefully. So 100% having a two-way street. I support this project, slowing traffic. The parking stays the same. Great place to start, but if we have to make the changes in order to maximize both the movement as well as safety, that will be done. The streeteries, we didn't really talk about that. There are streeteries on there, and I really appreciate you working with the owners there to ensure that those can continue. There's been some investment by our businesses into those streeteries, so I just wanted to highlight that. That was an extra piece that took a lot of energy, and it didn't come out tonight, but I did want to recognize it. And finally, the sharrows and bike boxes. To Councilmember Hill's point, what is the vision that we want? And you had mentioned that C Street has already been identified as one of those streets. Well, if we have two of them, that to me makes it even better. So really appreciate you taking the time to come here, to go to BPAC. And again, now your email is going to blow up because so many people are going to have opinions on this, but that's a good thing as we continue to make these changes in our downtown. So with that, I would, as I mentioned, this is an informational report. We're not taking a direct action on the item as it were. And so I would accept an emotion on this item.
I move that we accept the report.
Second?
Is it okay if she, I'm just checking because the city clerk has really been training us to read these. Okay. And it's been moved in second and roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushy.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Yaden Gladi.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 5-0. Then San Rafael Successor Agency, we do not have any items on that. So this evening is adjourned. Good night, everyone. Thank you.